Hi friends, I'm Chelsea and I am here with my winter book haul. Yes, I have done it again and I'm ashamed of myself. I mean, not really. I love getting books, I love reading books, I love collecting books, so I'm not apologizing, but it is getting a little out of control. I think this will probably be my last bigger book haul for a while because my shelves are literally filled to the brim and my physical TBR is quite large. I want to focus on the books I own and not keep buying more books, even if they're used. So I will show you all the books I have acquired over the past couple months. A lot of these, as usual, are used from thrift stores and local used bookstores, and some are from Little Free Libraries, and then several are books I got for Christmas. I think I have about 40 here. I'm gonna jump in and start with the Little Free Library finds. I just posted a Little Free Library video, so I'll go quickly through those. I also have a couple others that were not in the video, so I'll show you what I've picked up recently from Little Free Libraries. The first one is The Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver. This author wrote Demon Copperhead and so many other books. She's very prolific, very famous. I think a lot of them tend to be literary fiction, maybe some historical fiction, just really well-written books that tackle deeper, heavier topics. This one's not in great condition, but it was for free. I've heard that this one's really good. I think it's about a family that goes to Africa in, let's see, it says 1959. They go to the Belgian Congo as missionaries, and just the shift that their family experiences as they are in a different culture and what it was like in Africa during that time. So that's all I know. I usually don't know much about books going into it, but I'm definitely intrigued by this one. I also have Demon Copperhead on my physical TBR and hope to get to both of these at some point. Next, I found The Great Believers by Rebecca Mackay. Love this very vibrant cover, and I think maybe Jessica from Jessica's Library Card. I don't remember if she's read it yet. I think she has. I have a terrible memory, but I remember seeing this cover in one of her videos and it sounded interesting. So I think this one is kind of a literary / historical fiction revolved around the AIDS epidemic. And I think it has like two different timelines, or maybe several different timelines. There's a part of it that takes place in Paris, part of it in Chicago. That is all I know, but I think it sounds interesting. I don't think I've ever read a book that discusses the AIDS epidemic, so I definitely am curious to check this out. Another one that I'm kind of on the fence about because I've heard mixed reviews, but I figured I'd pick it up, and that is Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. I really enjoyed These Violent Delights, that duology by this author. I am curious to check this one out, and I think this is her adult fantasy debut. It says it's inspired by Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra. It is a fiery collision of power plays, spilled blood, and romance amid a set of deadly games. So I think it kind of follows the format of having different trials and games, which is always an interesting thing to read about. Seems very dramatic and epic. Like I said, I've heard mixed reviews, so I don't know, but I got it for free, so can't hurt to try it out. And then these next three were in my Little Free Library video, so I'll just quickly show you those again and move on. So I found Ancillary Justice by Anne Leckie. This is the first in a sci-fi trilogy, I believe. I'm trying to try out more sci-fi, so I thought this was an interesting find. This is another author that I've read before that I really loved. This is The Perfect Find by Tia Williams. I love 7 Days in June by her, and so I wanted to try another contemporary romance by this author. And lastly, we have The River We Remember by William Kent Kruger, a historical fiction set in Minnesota in the 50s and 60s. It seems to combine a bunch of different political and religious and cultural elements that sound really interesting, and I've really heard great things about this author's writing, so excited to find this one. So those were my couple of Little Free Library finds. Now the biggest portion of this haul, as usual, will be my thrifted finds. Just another public service announcement. Check out your local Goodwill, used bookstore, library sales, any place that sells books for cheaper, even independent bookstores. They're not going to be as cheap, but just supporting your local bookstores is really important. I also love to order books off of Pango Books. People sell them and send them, so it's not like a big company and you usually get pretty good prices. Just a reminder to check out all of those places to find books for cheaper, along with the library, of course. But if you want to own books, then those are great options. So this is one I've already read and I found at a used bookstore for $9. $5, I think, so I had to pick it up, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I really love this mythological retelling of Achilles and Patroclus and the Trojan War. It was just a beautiful, tragic love story and just an epic story in general. I was really excited to find this, and I can show it off on my shelf. Another one that I just had to pick up because it's so pretty is Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I don't know if I've actually fully read this, but I mean, it's Alice in Wonderland. I'm familiar with the story, and it's just so pretty. Like, look at all that. It's just a pretty one to display on the shelf and would be fun to read to my daughter one day. I think there are pictures in it. Oh, this is fun. We have a little spiral situation here. We also have different images, so just a really fun, whimsical edition of Alice in Wonderland. It was like $5, so I had to get it. Okay, this next set of books are all from Pango Books. I usually like to order several books from the same seller so you can save on shipping. Sometimes they'll do sales for their bookshop. I usually look for those to get some sales and get free shipping as well. So this one is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Hopefully I said that right. I love this cover, first of all, and I've heard a lot of great things about this one. And I think these are all short stories, like there's several different short stories, and it is a magical realism, time travel, literary kind of book. I just want to check it out because I know this is quite popular. This next one I haven't really heard people talk about much, but I remember seeing this cover, I think it came out last year, and so I saw the cover and was instantly drawn in. So this is The Crescent Moon Tea Room by Stacy Savinsky. It's just really cute and whimsical. I think this is a cozy fantasy, so right up my alley. I just love this cover. I honestly don't even know what it's about. This was a total cover buy. I think this follows triplets, and they're either witches or they just have some kind of magic. So it's a very family focused story with these triplets. Something happens where they're pulled in different directions. There's a family curse that is trying to separate the sisters, and they also have this little tea room. So it sounds like a lovely, cozy fantasy. Another cozy book that I found on Pango is Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. I don't think I've read any books by her yet. I know she wrote House of Salt and Sorrows, which also is on my physical TBR. I haven't heard as much about this one, but I did read somewhere or watch a video somewhere that it was a really good cozy book. I think good for fall. So I think it takes place in a small town, and the main character spends her days tending to her family's beehives, chasing after her sisters, and dreaming of bigger things while her twin is free to roam as he wishes. So we have a twin and triplets theme here. There are monstrous creatures in the woods, some townsfolk go missing, then as the seasons change, something is terribly wrong. Creatures are real, and they're offering to fulfill the residents' deepest desires in return for just a small favor. The main character finds herself in a race against time to stop the town from going up in flames. That's the short summary. It sounds, again, like a cozy book with a little bit of mystery, which I love. Now, this one is one that I'm very curious to check out because I absolutely love this author, and I love one of the books in this universe, and you will probably know soon what it is. And so this is King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. So Six of Crows comes before this, Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and I think this is the third trilogy that kind of follows chronologically after Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. It follows some different characters, but we also see some characters that showed up in Six of Crows, and so it's just continuing in the Grishaverse. I just want to read more of her books, so very excited to read this one. We have a very fantasy heavy theme here with my Pango books, and so this one is another one actually I think I saw on Jessica's channel, and I love this cover too. So this is The Cautious Traveler's Guide to the Wastelands by Sarah Brooks. It has a train around the side. I don't know how well you can see it. It starts down there and it goes all the way. So very fun, very pretty. I think I've heard that this could be compared to the, what is it, Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie, which I saw the movie, didn't read the book, but I really love that. And I think that it is a fantasy with a mystery element. This says, there is only one way to travel across the wastelands. On the Trans-Siberian Express, a train is famous for its luxury as for its danger. The train is never short on passengers eager to catch sight of wastelands creatures more miraculous and terrifying than anything they could imagine. But on the train's last journey, something went horribly wrong, though no one seems to remember what actually happened. Not even Zhang Weiwei, who has spent her life on board and thought she knew all the train secrets. And then we have a new set of passengers who come along. There's some weird things happening, forbidden friendship, warning signs, and they have to kind of work together to see if they can work against whatever forces are coming against them, I think. Again, the cover really drew me in, and I've heard some positive reviews on this one. This next book has been quite popular. I think it came out last year, and I have been wanting to check out this author, and I've been loving literary fiction, so I picked up Blue Sisters by Coco Mellers. She wrote Cleopatra and Frankenstein, and then this one came out last year. Here's another book that is kind of family-centric. We have three sisters. I think one of the sisters passes away, and that's kind of where the book starts out. They are trying to deal with their sister's death. I think it's just a literary fiction where they're navigating grief and all different sorts of struggles, and we follow their lives as sisters and as people. Very excited to check this one out and hopefully add another literary fiction to my list of favorites. And speaking of favorite literary fiction, I think I mentioned this in my last video. I listened to this book on audiobook in January, and I loved it so much that I bought it from Pango Books, and I found it for $5. And look at this. It is a brand new hardcover. So this is The Wedding People by Alison Espach. Yeah, I found this for $5. I just talked about this in my last video, but it's a literary fiction that talks about some deep and heavy topics, but deals with it in a pretty humorous and somehow lighthearted way with really interesting characters and addicting reading experience. So I am very happy to display this on my shelf. It's also really pretty, and I love that. As you can tell, I'm a huge sucker for pretty covers. And then with that, in the same shop on Pango, I found this book that I read last year and I loved, and it was also $5, and that is Funny Story by Emily Henry. Again, a brand new hardcover of a pretty new book within the last year, and a book that I loved. This made it to my honorable mentions of 2024. It's probably my second favorite Emily Henry book. Just really funny. We have fake dating and lots of drama, a really likable couple and characters. It's just classic Emily Henry. I loved it. I'm very happy to own this one. Okay, the next category, we're still in used books, but now we're in the library sales. My local libraries have a lot of good books, and most of the books there are $1 to $3 each. I'm very pleased with the books that I found. So this one is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. So I loved Piranesi by this author, and I really want to read more of her books. It's a thick one. It's like 800 pages, but I really want to read this one. I know Melanie from A Dark Corner of the Library loves it. I was so happy to find this for $1. It has images in it too, I believe. Yeah, it has some illustrations. I've never seen this cover before. I don't know if it's like an early print or a special edition or something, since it has pictures in it. Very excited to pick this up, and did not even have to think about buying this for $1. On the same library trip, I found Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed, also $1. I have heard a lot of good things about this book. I know Marissa loves this one. I will tag everyone in the comments so you can check out their videos. A lot of the books I pick up and read are from recommendations. So I remembered we were talking about this one and I wanted to pick it up. I think it is just literary fiction, but maybe a bit of a mystery. I'm not sure. I'm just going to read this because I don't really have a grasp on what the plot is. And this says, Alex Chamberlain is a woman who gets what she wants and has made a living showing other women how to do the same. So she is shocked when her babysitter, Amira Tucker, is confronted while watching the Chamberlains' toddler one night in the aisles of their high-end supermarket. The store's security guard, seeing a young black woman out late with a white child, accuses Amira of kidnapping. A small crowd gathers. A bystander films everything, and Amira is furious and humiliated. Alex resolves to make things right. But Amira is not in a good place, and when the video of Amira unearths someone from Alex's past, both women find themselves on a crash course that will upend everything they think they know about themselves and each other. So I knew that this was written by a black author and that it deals with like racial themes. That definitely sounds dramatic and thought-provoking, and I'm hoping that I'll really enjoy her writing. Another library find that I'm really excited about is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. Still have no idea which order I should read this series in. Everyone has different thoughts. I do also own Throne of Glass, so if you have opinions on what order to read these books in, whether I should start with this one or start with Throne of Glass, or if there's another one I should start with, let me know. And I know this is like a prequel with different novellas in it, and so it's kind of just setting the scene and giving you some context before you really jump into the story of Throne of Glass. And I'm not going to read all of that, but yeah, I was really excited to find this also for $1, I'm pretty sure. And then with that, I found the second book in a series that I just started. I bought it before I read the first book, so that was pretty presumptuous of me, but I ended up liking the first book and I do want to keep reading. So this is Caliban's War by James S.A. Corey. I read Leviathan Wakes. It's like epic sci-fi space opera, totally out of my comfort zone, but a fun series series, or at least the first book is. And yeah, now I have the second book, so I can continue the series, hopefully sooner than later. And the last one from my library sales is I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. Sorry, I don't actually know how to pronounce her last name. Maybe it's Sepetys. So I have read Salt to the Sea by this author, and I really liked it. She writes historical fiction, but kind of focused on different times and places in history. I think specifically in Eastern Europe. This one I know is set in Romania. This is 1989, so not as far back. I've just had her books on my list for a while, so I was excited to find this one. So this says, communist regimes are crumbling across Europe. 17-year-old Christian Florescu dreams of becoming a writer, but Romanians aren't free to dream. They are bound by rules and force. There is a tyrannical dictatorship, and he's blackmailed by the secret police to become an informer. He's left with only two choices: betray everyone and everything he loves, or use his position to undermine the most notoriously evil dictator in Eastern Europe. This says it's a historical thriller, which is kind of cool. I just thought it would be historical. I love a good thriller. We'll see if it's actually thrilling, but it sounds like an interesting premise. Now I have some Goodwill finds. So these are, of course, still thrifted and also pretty cheap. I'd say $1 to $3 each. I'll just quickly show you these. This is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I've had her books on my list for a while. I know she wrote Spinning Silver and some others probably. I definitely know it's fantasy, but maybe has a more of a fairy tale feel. There's like a blurb about it that says it's familiar as a grim fairy tale, yet fresh, original, and totally irresistible. There's a dragon, so I love that. It seems like the main character lives in a small, quiet village, but there is a corrupted wood right on the border. There's a cold, driven wizard known only as the dragon to keep the wood's dark forces at bay, but he demands a terrible price for his assistance. Every 10 years, one young woman must be handed over to serve him without question. The main character knows that the dragon will take her best friend and there's no way to save her, but when the dragon comes, it is not Cassia, her best friend, that he will choose. Just this cover alone has me very intrigued. Okay, this one I have seen, I think it was Faith from Faith's Reading Things. She read this one and I think she enjoyed it. It's a middle grade fantasy. I found it at Goodwill. So this is The Ogress and the Orphans by Kelly Barnhill. She wrote The Girl Who Drank the Moon, another middle grade fantasy. Haven't read it, but it's on my list. And I love this cover. This like screams fall to me, so I'll probably save it for fall. This one also involves dragons, so love that. Trying to expand my repertoire of dragon books. I'm not really going to read about it because this is going on really long, but I think it's just like a middle grade fantasy with dragons, so can't go wrong with that. This next one is an author that I've been wanting to read. I already have one of his books and I found this one as well. So this is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. His books are very literary, but I think maybe with some sci-fi magical realism elements. I'm not 100% sure. And this says it is a gothic tour de force, so I guess it has some gothic elements maybe. It features students who went to this boarding school in the English countryside. Then we go into the future when the students are older and they look back at their past and understand what it is that makes them so special and how that gift will shape the rest of their time together. I don't really know what this is actually about, but I've heard a lot of things about it and this author in general. And I have another Emily Henry here, but this is her backlist and I think it's like magical realism, so very different feel than her other contemporary romance books. And this is A Million Junes by Emily Henry. I'm very curious to see what her writing was like before she wrote contemporary romance and to read a magical realism story by her. It just looks very whimsical and kind of enchanting. It doesn't really say much about the plot on the back, so I'm going to leave it there, but I'm excited to try another one of her older books. Okay, we have a classic here that I had mentioned wanting to read this year, and I found it at Goodwill. So this is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This is one of those like classic gothic pieces of literature. I know that a lot of books are based off of it, and I've never read it, so I need to do that, and now I have a physical copy. And then one more from my thrifted haul is Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. For some reason, these covers always stick out to me. I never really knew what they were, but I feel like every time I see them in a store, I look at them because they just call to me. So I had to finally pick it up. I believe this is kind of a cozy mystery or maybe just a mystery. I think it's the first in a series, just like a classic British mystery. And I think it kind of has some bookish elements since we have an author as the main character. I'm excited to try out this author for the first time. So those are my thrifted books, and this is going quite long. So I'm going to jump to the books that I was gifted or books that I bought new. I will quickly go through these because I've read some of them already, and some of these were Christmas gifts to myself with money I got, and there were books that I loved that I wanted to own. And so one of those is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This was on my top 10 of last year. Really fun, cozy, but adventurous fantasy. Really wanted it on my shelf, so I bought it. Another one I picked up new, mostly because I couldn't find it anywhere else, and because I had to read it for book club, was The Frozen River by Ariel Lawton. I just talked about it in my January wrap-up. Really like this one. It's a historical fiction with a mystery. I couldn't find it anywhere else, so I picked it up so I could read it for my book club. Another one, which is in a series that I absolutely love, is Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett. I really love these covers, the hardcovers with no dust jacket. I already own the first book, and so I wanted to have the second book, and I'll probably buy the third book at some point if I can find it used, or just cave and buy it new, just so I can have the complete series displayed on my shelf, because I love these covers. They're so cute and whimsical, and it just brings me joy to see these on my shelf. And then one more that I picked up for myself because I have no self-control, but also because I'm very excited to read this, is Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson, the 5th book in the Stormlight Archive. Talked about it a lot. I have not read it yet, but I definitely plan to finish this series and read this book sometime this year. So I figured it would be helpful to have the book. And this one was a very unexpected surprise. So if you follow Just Allie, she is a really great booktuber. She just celebrated 200K subscribers, I think, and she did a little giveaway where you could link your Amazon wish list and she would send books from your wish list. And so I received this book in the mail, completely forgetting that I did that. And so I was like, oh, a stranger sent me a book. Then I realized that it was because I filled out that form and she sent me a book, which was so sweet. But yeah, I was laughing because it took me a while to figure it out. And then I realized it was her. Anyway, the book is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, which was on my top 10 of last year. And so I was so excited to have this on my shelf. It's one I probably wouldn't have bought new because I've already read it. Even though I loved it, I don't know, I just so rarely buy books new. So receiving this in the mail unexpectedly was like the best. It made my day. And so thank you, Allie, if you're watching this. Probably not because you're really big. But I really appreciated that, and it was a really fun surprise. This one is super random. My dad loaned this to me because he wants me to give him a book recommendation, and this is one of the only fictional books he's read, and so I need some frame of reference for what to recommend him. So this is Norwood by Charles Portis. Never heard of this book. Still don't really know what it's about. I think it's like a Western or just like a traveling across America kind of story. It's quite short. Apparently it's pretty funny, like subtle humor, which he loves, I love. I really don't know much, but definitely should read it so I can give him a fictional book recommendation if this reminds me of anything else I've read. And then this one I got in a Christmas like gift exchange, pretty much a white elephant back in December, and I picked this book up from that. So this is Where'd You Go, Bernadette by Maria Semple. I've seen this cover all over the place, and I know it is a movie now, but otherwise I don't really know much about it. I think it's just like general contemporary fiction with family themes, a daughter and a mother. Really, that's all I know. I know this author and this book are pretty popular, so it was fun to receive this in a gift exchange. Okay, and then the last handful of books here are books that I was gifted for Christmas by family members. I've talked about some of these before, so these will be quick as well. This one is one that I'm currently reading. That is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. My husband got me this. He loves Brandon Sanderson, and he has been wanting me to get into this series as well. So I'm reading it now, having fun. I'm about halfway through, and so I am definitely excited to continue this series this year. The other book that my husband got me for Christmas is also on my February TBR. Kind of late because I haven't read it yet, but I do hope to start it soon, and that is The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love by India Holton. Talked about this before. It's like a cozy rivals to lovers historical fantasy centered around birds and whatnot. I think he liked this cover and thought it sounded cool, and I'm glad he got it for me. We have another Susanna Clark here, and this is one I've actually already read. I read it in pretty much one sitting because it's like 60 pages, and so this is The Wood at Midwinter by Susanna Clark. I mentioned this in my December wrap-up. It's beautiful. Obviously, the cover is great, very shiny, but we have lots of beautiful illustrations throughout. That was the best part of the book to me. I liked the story, but it was so short that it didn't really stick with me, but the illustrations are just beautiful. I just love this author's writing, so very fun to have this one on my shelf. That was a gift from my father-in-law slash mother-in-law. Also from my in-laws is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. This is a murder mystery. This is the same author who wrote A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I loved. I think this is also YA. It has some true crime elements, which are fun. Seems like a really good hopefully fast-paced mystery thriller. This one is from my parents, mostly my mom probably. This one is on my 20 and 2025. Very intimidated but very intrigued, and that is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. It's a big one. It's gonna take a while, but a true classic that I really need to read. And I love the Penguin Classics cloth-bound edition, so I'm very excited to have this one on my shelf. And then the last one is not a fictional book, but it's so pretty that I had to show it. This is also from my mom, and here it is. It's called Book Nooks, Inspired Ideas for Cozy Reading Corners and Stylish Book Displays by Vanessa Dina and Claire Gilhully. Probably butchered those names, but yeah, it just has a bunch of really cute little images of book nooks and different ideas for decorating, different ways to display your books, and having just a cozy space. There's also some authors who have some book recommendations, so that's kind of fun. This is just a fun one to flip through, and it's a nice addition to my collection. Those are all the books. I always feel very hoarse by the end of these because I'm just talking nonstop. I'm gonna have to do some organizing here. Actually, I think my next video after my March TBR will be bookshelf organization and going through my physical TBR. A lot of these will be in there, but I thought it would be fun to show off all the books I've gotten lately. Let me know, as always, if you have read any of these, if you have recommendations for which ones I should start with, because it's a little overwhelming, not gonna lie. Let me know if you picked up anything fun lately, especially if it was thrifted or from a little free library. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!